Hey y'all, this is Grace Tyler, and you're listening to the Texas Country Tour podcast.
Welcome to the Texas Country Tour podcast. Whether you're looking for a performance near you or want to learn more about your favorite local artists, this show connects you with all things Texas country music. From deep in the heart of Texas, here's your host, Cameron Mitchell.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Texas Country Tour podcast, where we dig deep into the heart of country music and discover the soul that makes it what it is. I'm thrilled to guide you through this journey of life, music, and the Texan spirit. We're talking love, loss, joy, and the open road, because that's what country music is all about. Now, this ain't your typical interview show. Every episode, we sit down with musicians who shape the Texas country scene, from the seasoned legends to the up-and-coming talents. We'll delve into their stories, explore their musical journeys, and seek to understand the drive, the passion, and the heartache that fuels their art. But we're not just talking about music, we're living it. Our guests will not only share their tales, but also their tunes. Each artist selects one original song, a personal favorite, to perform live and exclusive for our listeners. You'll hear the strumming, the singing, the sweat and soul poured into each chord and verse. And then we'll go behind the lyrics, learning about the inspiration that sparked these musical masterpieces. This is the only place you'll get such an intimate connection to the music you love and the artists behind it. So buckle up, listeners, because we're embarking on a journey down the dusty roads of Texas with a map drawn by the melodies and the stories of our favorite artists. Whether you're a lifelong country fan or a first-time listener, there's a spot for you here on the Texas Country Tour podcast. Because in the end, we're not just sharing songs, we're sharing lives, we're sharing dreams, and we're sharing the human behind the art. Today we'll have Grace Tyler joining us on the podcast. So join us, tune in, and let's experience together the sound of Texas country music. Grace, welcome to the podcast. We are glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Cameron. I'm so excited to be here.
So we want to learn all about you. And the first question we have is, can you tell us about yourself?
Can I tell you about myself? Yes, I can. I am from Frisco, Texas, born and raised. I was kind of telling you earlier, my parents moved there in the 90s, and everybody was like, why are you moving to Oklahoma? But I really got to grow up with the town of Frisco, which is so cool. I started singing at a karaoke bar in downtown Frisco when I was 6 or 7. My parents saw us free babysitting, would drop me off, and little did they know it would start a future in music, and I just fell absolutely in love with it. So around 13, 14, I was playing full band shows around Dallas, Fort Worth area, and knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So when I graduated high school from Wakeland High School in Frisco, I moved to Nashville, where I went to Belmont University, because my parents were like, well, if you're going to go do this, maybe you should get a college degree just in case. And I was like, okay, Mom, okay, Dad. Really, it was just to convince them to let me move here, and they did. And I've been in Nashville about 4 years now, get to come back to Texas all the time and play shows, and have actually this year really begun like traveling around the U.S., getting to play shows. Been releasing music ever since I moved to Nashville, and it's been honestly the coolest, craziest experience. But I feel like this year was such a full circle moment with the ACM Awards being back in Frisco, my hometown. Just seeing the love my hometown has for country music and seeing country music appreciate the town where I'm from was just honestly a full circle moment in all of that. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
So let's follow up. Let's have a follow-up question. You mentioned
Okay.
your hometown. You know, my follow-up question is, how has your hometown or upbringing influenced your music and career?
Yeah. I love to say I grew up with Frisco when I, was a kid. I remember there were just fields everywhere. I remember we got our first target. That was such a big deal. When the star got put up, we used to go dove hunting in that field. Like really random things that just kind of made me into who I am today. And I think the community of Frisco, if you know it, you know it's a very big sports town. And so I always thought I needed to play sports as a kid. And when I realized I wasn't good at sports, it was kind of like my rude awakening of, all right, music may need to be your main focus, girlfriend. And so I started focusing on music, and I just saw kind of how the community just supported that, and, friends and family and just people in town would come out to shows. And now every time I come back home and play shows, there's people I don't know, I've never met, and they're like, we've seen you for years, and like we're just now introducing ourselves. So just very thankful for that community of people who are supportive and who let me grow with them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Dove hunting in that field. Wow.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm from a big hunting family. And so my dad, usually the boys would go dove hunting and the girls we'd be at home and we'd be swimming, but they'd come back with their dove and we make like little jalapeno dove poppers. They're so good. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. Oh my gosh.
Nice. The next question I have is, what do you enjoy doing in your free time when you're not making music?
Ooh, in my free time. Well, I just joined this year a sand volleyball league, and it's a lot more intense than I ever thought it would be. We're pretty good. We have a good running right now. We're gonna probably be like the winners of the loser bracket, which I'm really bummed about. We're like, we have a good time. We're not taking it too serious, but I love just like being active and getting out. Whether it's playing volleyball or going out on the lake or just going for a walk. Nashville's really pretty. Nobody ever tells you that like it's like the most non-city city. There's deer everywhere, turkey everywhere. So lots of good like hiking spots. So I love just getting out, seeing nature. Yeah.
That's perfect. How do you balance the demands of your career with your personal life and family?
Yeah, it's hard. I think any job though, you have to find the balance between, your life and your job as well. I think the hardest thing about this in particular is that there's no set hours, right? And so sometimes if I have a day off, I feel guilty that I'm not working hard, but I have to realize that, it's just as important to work on my mental health, be taking care of myself and taking care of the relationships. It's important to have a girls' night or a date night or go home and visit family. And I think a lot of times with like social media, you get like caught up in, I'm not doing enough, but taking care of yourself and people who love you the most is like the most important thing you could do to help your career. And so I think I've just started to like plan it out better. I put it in my calendar, like, okay, this is girls, and I, have it set in stone to where it's like, it's on the calendar, it's there, it's happening.
Taking time for yourself, much needed.
It is.
So let's pivot into more of talking about your music career. My next question is, what's the general songwriting process like for yourself? And do you have any specific examples?
Yeah. So I kind of tell people, like, they ask, what's a normal day in the life of like a musician, a songwriter? And it obviously differs day to day. But when I'm in town, I'm usually writing songs. I'll have a co-write when I'm writing with usually two other people, sometimes one, sometimes three. But my 9 to 5 is meeting up with them, writing a song, getting a song done, usually playing around or something after. But the songwriting process is super cool. I swear, like, most of my ideas come to me when I am driving down the interstate and I'm like, don't want to crash my car, but also I need to remember this idea somehow. So I'm pulling out a voice memo. I'm like trying to get it down, voice text into my notes. anything I can to get it down. And then, when an idea just comes to life when you're writing it, go to the studio, get to, fully produce it, get to work with it. I have incredible producers here in town. My first producer I worked with was Brad Hill, and I'm working with him on upcoming projects too. I just love him. And then I got to do 2 songs that I worked with Lee Brice on. So he ended up producing them, which was super cool, just seeing like somebody I've looked up to my entire life. As a person, as me in music, him putting his name and his stamp of approval on something I created and being like, no, I want to be a part of this, was a really cool experience for sure.
Awesome. What's the most unexpected or unusual place you've drawn inspiration from for your music?
Ooh, most unusual. Every time I go back home, no matter where I am, if it's like a grocery store, if it's like something super random, I'm always finding inspiration. Probably the most random one is my new song, Jesus in a Bar. I live right next to a Trader Joe's, and my co-writer was coming over. I guess this was more her, but she comes back and she was like, guys, I have an idea for a song. I heard somebody in front of me at Trader Joe's say something, Jesus in a bar. And she was like, we have to write that today. I'm like, yeah, we have to write that today. What the heck? That's crazy. I ended up writing that song. That was super random. A Trader Joe's line. You never know.
So my follow-up question to that is, does that person online get songwriting credit?
Yeah. Oh, no, not that person.
No.
Not that person. A title can't be copyrighted is the fun fact. That's like, if I had to give it song credit, like my grandma, she probably would get a lot more song credit than or just random people. I love it.
If you weren't a musician, what career path do you think you would have pursued?
This is a great question. I think there's 2 that I may have done. Music has always just been like front and center, always know I wanted to do it. So when I was in high school, I had an internship class and I was like, how do you intern for music here? I don't know. So I'm going to do something I always wanted to do. So I interned as a wedding planner, and I realized real quick that was way too stressful for me to do. Dealing with like the most important day of somebody's life is a lot. So I thought I wanted to do that, like if music didn't work out, and I was like, man, I got to give music my best shot. And then I was like, I love houses. I love decorating, things like that. So I always thought I wanted to be a realtor as well. And again, just a lot of legal stuff, but I was just like, yeah, you know what? We're going to try really hard on this music thing because I don't think I want to do that anymore.
Awesome. Speaking of music, what's your favorite part about touring, and what's the most challenging aspect of life on the road?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing, I've always just loved getting to go see new places. I think like growing up in Dallas, I didn't realize what was out there. Like I love Dallas, don't get me wrong, but it's so flat and there's nothing like there's lakes and things like that, but it's so flat. So I think my first time really traveling, I realized not everywhere is as flat, and like walking is exhausting. And so I think like going and seeing new places and just how it looks different and the vibes are just different in different places, but also the people, like the culture of different places, and getting to meet all these people who grew up very different than you did is honestly one of my favorite things. And how country music just ties everybody together, how no matter how different your town looks or feels. And I think like the hardest thing is just being away from people you love. I think when I'm on the road, it's easy because it's go, 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 but it's knowing that, okay, the people I love, I'm gone for 3 or 4 days and I'm not with them. And I think that's kind of like the hardest part of it is when I'm here in Nashville, I want to be gone. And when I'm gone, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back home. So it's like a vicious cycle, but I absolutely love it. I think the first time I really spent like a run on the road, I realized this is exactly what I want to do, and I was made to do this, and I love it.
That's perfect. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions that you follow before you step on stage?
Ooh, this is a good one. I am really big on like train tracks, like you lift your legs over train tracks. And I feel like for some reason, every time something has gone wrong, it's because I've let my feet down when we're crossing a railroad track. So if there's ever a railroad track in like the town we're going to, my feet are up in the air. I feel like too, a lot of people will like take a shot or do things like that. I cannot do that. I can't drink before a show. I forget the words. I forget the words to my own stuff. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And it's not even like it's just a little bit. Even if I have a little bit of something, it's like not good. So I'm like,
all right, everyone sing with me.
right, and you know the words. Yeah. I may have done that a time or two. So yeah, I'm big on like just, you know, being cognizant of that before I go on stage. And afterwards I have like a, you know, we did it, oh my gosh, we survived, little drink. But yeah, I think those are like my two little superstitions before I go on stage. I don't know.
So that train track one, I've never heard of that before.
Oh no.
I've
yeah.
never, and I'm a big trains person. Like since the age of 3, I'm a big trains person. Like my mom's going to be listening to this podcast and she's like, yep, Cameron's a big trains person. He loved them. But so like whenever you're in a vehicle and you see a railroad track the crossing sign, you're like, all right, everyone feet up, let's go.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. I'm like very superstitious about it. And then I get like tripped out if I'm the one driving because I'm like, okay, I have to press the gas enough beforehand to get the momentum to go over. But yeah, it's like just second nature now. I'm always lifting my leg. I don't know why. I think one time I didn't do it and I had an awful day and I was like, it's because of the train. It's because I didn't lift my feet over the train tracks. Yeah.
And for those listening, for legal reasons, of course, whenever you're driving, you still drive safely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, there we go. Let's have that on the record. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We're still safe. We're just,
of course, safe motorist. Second to last question I have for this section of the podcast interview is, what is the most memorable fan encounter you've had so far in your career?
Oh, man, there have been a lot. I think the most recent one that kind of was something that's always going to stick with me. I was in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which is about 3.5 hours outside of Nashville. It's where Dollyland is. And it honestly is one of the craziest towns ever. It's just a huge tourist attraction all in one. They got like the Titanic that you can like touch, the water.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a whole ordeal. And we were in Pigeon Forge for a writer's retreat, and we're playing some like writer's rounds out there at the listening room location out in Pigeon Forge. And the show we had there, it was an earlier show, so there weren't a lot of people. It was like 3 p.m. show. So maybe like it wasn't a full crowd. It was kind of like, you know, you walk out and you're like, oh man, like, okay, like we'll be fine. We'll get really, you know, these people will be like, that was such a personal experience, because it was like, I'm staring them right. And so my latest single is called Sound of You Gone, and it's about losing somebody. And we wrote it in all aspects of what it means to lose somebody, whether that's, you know, a breakup, an actual, you know, loss of somebody. And I kind of just introed the song and was playing it. And I guess I wasn't really paying attention. But then after the show, this husband and wife come up and they grab me and they're like in tears, sobbing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, should I like say something to offend them? Like, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Because that's like my first, you know,
Right.
like, oh no, why are these people so upset? And they were like, that song, they're like, we lost our son, and he was in the military. We lost him like 7 or 8 years ago is what they said. His name was JT. And they were like, nothing is ever put into words really what it is meant to lose him until we've heard this song. And they were just bawling. And they're like, thank you for, you know, explaining how we feel and putting it into words. And I think that was just something that changed my perspective forever. You know, I wrote this song and I knew it was like a sad song, and I knew it was going to be something I had to, you know, handle carefully when pitching it, and, you know, that the way it will connect with people is going to be like a very hard way. And I think after that, I realized just the impact, because it was one of the first times I got to play the song out live. And just seeing it firsthand was so cool. And so we were bawling, we're crying, and it was just such an incredible experience when I got home. When we recorded the music video, where I got this old like rotary phone, picked it up in the middle of it was really sketchy. I picked it up off of Facebook Marketplace. It was actually scary. I had my friend follow me because I was a little worried. We're all fine. I picked up the phone and we used it for the music video, so you can see it in the music video, and I just had it at my house. And I was like, I feel like I need to do something, like feel like I need to dedicate this song to the people, who have been lost, who, their loved ones relate to the song.
Great.
So I wrote JT's name down, and then on the phone, and then I posted on like Instagram and TikTok and all of that. And I was like, if this song, relates to you, if you have somebody you're missing, I want to dedicate this song to that person. So just comment their name below. And so now I have this whole phone covered in all these names of like people who are gone, but who are so loved. And it's just a reminder of the power of a song. So it's in my living room. I walk by it each day, and it's honestly one of the things that like keeps me motivated and will always keep that couple in my mind forever. So yeah.
That's powerful.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So this is the last question I asked in this portion of the interview. I asked this question from everyone, from print interviews to live interviews. This is the most important thing I want to know from each artist. And that question is, what are you hoping to add to the country music genre?
Ooh, that's a great question. What I want to add, I feel like as a woman in like country music, we're always being compared to each other, put up against each other. And I want to show that like women in country, it's not competition. It's so much of like a friendship. And I'm genuinely such a believer in like supporting other women in music. And if one of them is succeeding, then we're all succeeding. And I want to show that like anybody can do this. Like being from Frisco, I grew up in a town that was so sports centered and sports focused. I didn't have somebody where I was from that I could look up to and be like, okay, she was just like me and she did it. And I think that's what I want to show people, is that no matter where you're from, hard work, determination is what gets you in life, and no matter what you want to do, but especially when you're dreaming big. And I think Lainey Wilson said this the best: if you're going to be a dreamer, you have to be a doer. And I can relate to that so much. And so I think with my music, I want people to know they're not alone. I want people to know that the way they're feeling, other people can relate to, and that you have a voice, and that I want to help share that story. I want to be able to put your life into words and to share that with you. If that's comfort, it's to make you cry, if it's to make you happy, it's to make you sad. And I think that's like the biggest thing I want to offer in my music, is just things that people can sit and can relate to and feel like this person gets me, and she's writing from a place that's so honest and so true. Yeah, I think that's what I want to add to country music.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Grace. We're going to take a quick break and return with a deep dive into one of her songs.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. Before the break, we've learned about Grace Tyler's background and music career so far. Now, I'd like to take a deep dive into one of her most meaningful songs. Grace, which song are we going to discuss today?
Yeah, I want to talk about my next single. It's called Jesus in a Bar.
All right. Well, please tell us all about Jesus in a Bar and the story behind it.
Yes, so I think I kind of mentioned earlier how it came to be. But there's kind of two sides of the story. So I kind of told my friend Rachel, who I wrote it with, how she was in line at the grocery store and heard it. And at the time, it was, I think, the Grammys. There was some big award show. I think it was the Grammys. Had just gone on, and uh, I didn't really watch the Grammys. There was a lot like of controversy around it, and I normally, if it's not like a country award show, I'm like catching up the next day and catching the recaps of it. But I remember this one in particular, the next day, like TikTok and social media was blowing up about how there were a bunch of Christian artists at the Grammys, and there's like the Sam Smith stuff, and they were like, well, what are these Christian artists doing there during this? And a lot of people were attacking these artists, and I remember just sitting there like, why are we attacking them? And there was this one TikTok that came up, and this guy kind of had a similar idea as me, and he's like, as a Christian, which like I'm a Christian, and he was like, as Christians, isn't that where we should be? Like, isn't that where we should be, is, you know, spreading the message of Christ in a place, in a room where, you know, there may not be Christ. And he was like, if those Christian artists weren't there, their seats would have been filled, and those seats could have been filled with other artists who aren't Christian, who aren't there to spread the message, and they could have, you know, somebody could have heard the message of God for the first time that night. And it's so important as Christians to not just isolate ourselves to what's comfortable and, you know, that whole like holier than thou mentality and, oh, you know, I live this perfect, great life, because we don't live this perfect, great life. And I've always been the type of person where like, you know, I go to church on Sundays, but I'm out at bars, you know, I'm a musician. Like that's my job, is to be at a bar. That's where I'm networking and I'm playing music. So that's a huge part of my life too. And just this idea of how it can be looked down upon sometimes. And it just didn't really sit right with me. And so I'd kind of sent this like idea to my friends, Rachel Loren and Sam Blasco. And so when Rachel was in line at Trader Joe's and she heard this Jesus in a bar thing, she was like, holy cow, like this has to be, you know, something. This has to be kind of a sign, because we'd been kind of talking about it. And as soon as she said that, I was like, that's exactly what I want to write about. That's exactly the message. It's, you know, a place where you don't expect to find God is sometimes the most powerful ways you find him. And it's not a song that I feel like is trying to shove Jesus down people's throats, because that's not who I am as a person. I'm not going to try to force you to believe what I believe. I want to show you why, you know, my faith gives me so much peace and comfort and makes me who I am in everyday life. And I think actions are the biggest way to show faith. And it's in the simplest of things, you know, even when you're at a bar, it's a girl in the bathroom who's telling you, girl, you deserve better than this guy, or, oh, you need lip gloss, here, I have lip gloss, or a bartender who's just sitting there and letting you pour out your soul into them. I think, you know, you can speak faith and you can say that you're a Christian, but the actions are the most important thing. And Jesus hung out with the least of people. And not saying that people at a bar are the least of people, but
Right.
just saying that if Jesus could surround himself with, you know, people who weren't seen by the Jewish community at the time as like, you know, the greatest of people, then like, what is stopping us from surrounding ourselves with people that need to hear the word of God? You know,
True.
Our biggest role as Christians is to go spread the message. And you can't do that if you're only surrounding yourself with people who believe the same thing as you do. So that was kind of the inspiration behind the song. And it honestly was just one of the easiest songs I've ever written, probably for multiple of reasons. It was something I was super passionate about. And just the people I wrote it with are really good friends. And we honestly finished it so quick, and we knew like right then and there, like we have something really special. And I posted it on TikTok and people loved it. And I'm like, cool. That's honestly sometimes like the biggest test of a song is like, all right, throw it out there. What do people say? I'm like, are they going to attack me for this song? Or are they going to be like, oh my gosh, I feel this, I relate to this? And
Right.
I feel like probably 99.999% of people related to it and were like, this is exactly how I feel. And this is exactly the type of message that they want to spread as well. So it was a really cool song to be a part of, to get to, you know, create and get to put my name on for sure.
So, can you describe the emotions or feelings you experience when you're performing that song?
Yeah, I think the first time I played it live, I played it at a bar at a writer's round in town, and I was terrified. Oh my goodness. Um, I was so scared because I didn't want this song to come across as like judgment. And that was totally how we wrote it too. Like the first verse is talking about how like when I go out, I'm normally not looking, to be that light to people, honestly, in all truth. I'm looking to go out and have a good time. And um I over time I started to see the actions of other people and the way that like, a stranger's quicker to be kinder to you in a bar than they are in a lot of other places. And I loved that. I loved that just about how accepting, a lot of places, at least in Nashville, are. And so I played it for the first time live and I was like, is this the best idea? Like, I don't know. And the whole room like went silent. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm like, Jesus, all right, like let me be, spread your word. And I hope I'm doing it in the best way I can. This is, all to glorify you and not me. And when I finished the song, it was like, there was like a pause and I was like, oh no, do they hate it? Do they love it? They hate it? They love it? And then they loved it. And I was like, okay, phew, they loved it. But yeah, I think the emotion behind it, it's very convicting. It's a very emotional song in the sense of, Jesus is everywhere. And I think we sometimes put limitations onto what he can do and where he can be. And if he can be, at the Grammys, or if he can be in a bar, or if he can be in prison, like he can be anywhere, and I think sometimes it takes moments to recognize that, to see how incredible he is. So, yeah.
Now, for this specific song, have you had any personal stories from people regarding this song or feedback, and how has that impacted you?
Yeah, no, the feedback's been crazy. I posted it on TikTok and it got a bunch of views and got me out of like TikTok jail for a hot second there. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, people are seeing my stuff again. This is great. And I heard so many stories of just people who like found Christ in a bar and who became Christians in a bar, and a lot of bartenders responded to it too, and they were saying, they're like, it's my job. Like, I feel like as somebody there who, isn't getting drunk and is providing a service to other people, it's my, job to be that example of Christ. And the responses from it have just been so cool and so amazing. And I think a lot of times, like, I know when I have a couple of drinks, I love talking about the Lord, and I love getting to share the message, which sometimes people are like, that's a little counterintuitive, Grace. And I'm like, put in the message at the end of the day. Like, the message is getting out there. And I think, there needs to be less judgment and less criticism on ways people spread the message of Christ. And a lot of people honestly were like the same. They're like, I don't know why, but like, I don't get the courage to unless I've had a beer. And it's like, okay, well, that's a baby step in like the right direction, right? And maybe one day where it's like, they don't need to have that. But like, why criticize people for, getting whatever courage they need to spread the message? So it's been really cool to just see people relate to it, and all these crazy, incredible stories of people just finding God and finding their faith in a bar.
That's poetic.
I wasn't trying to be poetic either. It's like the craziest thing. And it was just so organic and just, I feel like spreading my faith through my music is something I've always wanted to do. And I wanted to do it in a way that felt authentic to me, because I'm not perfect. I am not the perfect Christian. I know that. I love the Lord and I have a relationship with him and I believe in him as my Lord and Savior. And I try to live up to, living a life as if Jesus would, but I'm going to fall short of it. And I know that. And so having a song that I think kind of just embodies who I am as a person is something I'm really proud of and something I'm really excited to put out into the world.
Now let's talk musical elements and technique.
Yeah.
Are there any specific musical elements or techniques in this song that you particularly enjoy performing, and what makes them stand out for you?
Ooh, okay. So the production of this song was really cool to create just because it's a very building song. And normally like a song, the verse, and it builds the chorus and goes back down for the verse and then up again for the chorus and then up for the bridge. This song is just like a mountain, like is the best way to describe it. It's like climbing a mountain. It starts off very stripped back, just kind of me, guitar, a little percussion, and then it builds obviously to the chorus. But then the second verse, it builds more, and it's this like, I don't know, it just is this journey that was so cool to create. And like the background vocals don't hit until like the second verse, and it's like, whoa, that like came out of nowhere. This is crazy. It was just a very unique way of creating a song and getting to throw every little element in there, but having it stripped back at the same time. So I'm really excited for people to get to hear this and see, because it took us a while to get this right. So I'm really excited about it.
So, follow-up question, you said it took you a while to get this right. Since the first inception of the idea of it to what it is now, how has it changed? What did you adjust to make it right?
Yeah, there were just some like little melody changes that at first it was like, okay, I think this is it. And then it's just little minor things. And my producer, Brad Hill, is just incredible. And he lets me be as crazy psycho as I need to be. So I love him for that. And he nitpicks, but I nitpick, and which is great because I feel like when we get a finished product, it's like, okay, if we both say this is good, then we're good. But yeah, it was just like, what is the like way the song is gonna feel, or the passion behind it. And I think little melody changes here and there, and then it was like we were in the studio recording, and all of a sudden, I think the bass player was like done with whatever he was tracking, and he was just messing around on the piano. We're like, oh, that has to be in it. That's super cool. And he was like, I was just messing around. We're like, no, keep doing that. Someone get a mic. Let's put it up. And so it's just cool things like that when you're like in the moment of like recording a song, that little things that you didn't even think of when you bring like such talented creative minds into a room together, and everybody's minds start going different places, that magic is created. And sometimes there's, you get a lot more than you need, and you strip it back and find the gems of it. But yeah, there's like a little keys part in there that like didn't know was gonna be in there, and it turned out super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The last question I have for this is, if you had to choose one word or phrase to describe the essence of this song, what would it be?
Ooh. I would say the essence of this song. I would say light. I think when you think of a bar, you think of a dark, grimy place. And I think this song will make people start to see the good in places that you don't expect to find it. Because I know after writing this song, anytime I'm in a bar, I'm more cognizant and I'm more aware of like those little moments of light in a place that, seems to be so dark. So I would say a light would be the word I would choose. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Grace. Grace will be performing her song, Jesus in a Bar, after this break.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Grace Tyler.
This bar stool ain't a church pew, and I wasn't looking to find him here tonight. I ain't saying I ain't been praying, but I won't lie and say that he was top of mind. They say a place like this will make you unholy, but up till now I haven't looked at this closely. It's a girl in the bathroom sharing lipstick and good advice. It's a bartender listening to all the sins he regret tonight. It's a stranger calling you right on when you've had too much to drink. It makes you think. If you look past the sinners, the smoking broken hearts, you can always find Jesus in a bar. It ain't obvious to see such godliness being poured out on doubles on ice. Don't see no Bible, but there's no denial. He still preaches under neon lights. It's a girl in the bathroom sharing her lipstick and good advice. It's a bartender listening to all the sins he regrets tonight. It's a stranger calling you right on when you've had too much to drink. It makes you think. If you look past the sinners, the smoking broken hearts, you can always find Jesus in a bar. It's just another 4 walls full of souls looking for something to save them. It's a girl in the bathroom sharing her lipstick and good advice. It's a bartender listening to all the sins you regret tonight. It's a stranger calling you right on when you've had too much to drink. It makes you think. If you look past the sinners, the smoking broken hearts, you can always find Jesus in a bar. You can always find Jesus in a bar.
I want to give a big thank you to Grace Tyler for sharing her story on today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Texas Country Tour. Reach out and let us know what you think about the podcast. Feel free to ask us questions about the show. Our goal is to connect you to the greatest music genre in the Lone Star State. So, where is Texas country music taking you this weekend? I'll see y'all next time.
Thanks for listening to the Texas Country Tour podcast. Be sure to visit us at texascountrytour.com. Stay safe, have fun, and support live music.